In this video, I would like to answer a question that I've been asked a few months ago. A head of esports asked me this question right after losing to tier 2 teams. He wanted to know, why is the gap so small between tier 1 and tier 2? How can I explain this? Before I give you my answer, I would like you to listen to his message and note that he was a little frustrated when he sent it to me.
I don't understand how Tier 2 players who've barely left their bedrooms can beat Tier 1 players with actual experience. Make it make sense to me. I'm paying these guys good money. I give them proper facilities, they get to do this full time, and somehow they're still not ready to face a bunch of hungry kids? I don't care if the gap between Tier 1 and Tier 2 is small. That's not an acceptable answer. I'm not investing $250,000 a year into a team just to watch them get beaten by kids I could pick up off the street for free. So explain it to me. How does that happen?
How do you explain that no matter how much money you throw at people, they can still get fucked by beggars? You understand this the second you see that Tier 1 esports organizations do not respect a fundamental rule when you're fighting someone. In any fight, whether it's in business or at war, you make sure that you have unfair advantages and you use them to the max. For instance, if you are in a business, your advantage is, I have low salary, like my labor cost is very low. What do? I take the price of my item and I just lower it. I lower it so low that my competitor cannot follow me, because if he does, he will go bankrupt. You have an unfair advantage and you use it until you push your opponent to the ground. You are at war. Your opponent has no aircraft. It has no anti-aircraft as well. You abuse your jets, your fighters, your bombers. You will win the war before even setting foot on the ground. You have better intelligence. You will use sabotage, espionage to always have one step ahead. You have better logistics. You make sure that wherever you fight, it's in your advantage. What you need to understand in esports is Tier 1 is trying to fight fair against Tier 2. What does that mean? Because most of you will believe, like, how can it be fair? They spend so much money. Yeah, but that's the only thing they do. Most esports organizations in Tier 1, when they build a new project, they're like, okay, we need the best players and we need the best coaches possible. Best people money can buy. So yeah, they will have slightly better coaches and slightly better players than Tier 2. So what happens then? If the rest is the same, the way they work, the way they learn is the same, then you have no advantage, no clear advantage. You have no unfair advantage. And this is where it hurts the most. Tier 1 organizations do the same thing Tier 2 does, but with money. For instance, they learn the same way Tier 2 does. How does Tier 2 learn anything when they're building projects? Easy. They drop everyone and they start over. What do Tier 1 organizations do? They do the exact same thing. And that would be like impossible in any other business. Why? Because you understand in any other business that the core of your value is your knowledge. So every time someone comes to your organization, they must give you nuggets. And these nuggets are protected. This is not the case in Tier 1 organizations. You just drop everyone. In Tier 1, we screen the same way Tier 2 does, review the same way Tier 2 does, and solo queue the same way Tier 2 does. When you talk to a head coach in Tier 1, you would be amazed by their answer when you ask them this question. Oh, so since you're in Tier 1, is it very different from Tier 2? He will tell you right away, no, it's the same thing that I've been doing in Tier 2, except this time I'm paid, so I can just do it full time. We do the exact same thing between Tier 1 and Tier 2. There's just more money involved. And the money doesn't speak when it's time to play the game on the server. If you want to reach the top as a Tier 1 organization, you need to stop thinking as, my goal is to find the best people. This thing will never give you an unfair advantage. You need to understand that your actual job as a Tier 1 organization is to make the fight so unfair but the opponent has already lost before the game has begun. And there's something you need to understand about the way you work in like tier 1 organizations. Most tier 1 organizations believe that in order to reach the highest performance peak, they need processes. And I'm sorry to tell you, if you still believe this, but you're 30 years behind. What do I mean by that? Processes is only the part of the equation. It's not the whole thing. It's not the whole solution. Why do I say that? Many organizations today have tons of processes. They have so many processes that you can see it everywhere in their message on Twitter. You need to trust the process. You need a better process. You need a process for this, a process for that. But at the end of the day, what happens when they're in the heat of a moment? They never think about the processes. They keep improvising. Why do they do that? Because they have nothing that pushes them to use these processes. They need to think, they need to remember that they have them in order to use them. And this is why all the processes you build, they're useless. In this video, I would like to show you how to build foundations that are so robust that your pace at which you will improve, it will be so great that it will feel unfair for everyone else. This foundation you can find in all the greatest organizations, whether in esports, sports, business, no matter. And to identify these 5 core concepts, you can use the acronym ELITE that I always use, that I always implement in all the projects in tier 1 that I'm given. First letter of ELITE, E, embodiment. Most tier 1 organizations, when they need a target, when they define their goal, when they set their goal with a team, they just give some kind of random goal like, we want to be champions, we want to lift trophies, we want to be the best at blah, blah, blah. The problem with this goal is it's so far away in time, like in many years, but it has no impact in your everyday life. What do I mean by that? If I have a player that tells me, I want to lift this trophy, I want to be the champion, if this goal had any impact in his everyday life, he would never get frustrated. He would never run down his scrims. He would never be upset. He would never complain when it's hard. He would enjoy it. But why is he complaining? Why is he frustrated? Why is he running down his scrims when he's unhappy? Because his goal is too far away. So the cure for that is to bring your goal so close to you, you cannot unsee it. And how do you do that? You embody your goals. When I told myself I wanted to be the best performance coach in esports, I didn't say like, oh, someday I'll be there. No, today I want to be him. I want to be this version of me. I am the best today. I'm doing something difficult. How should I react? How would the best performance coach react to something difficult? He will do it. Even if it sucks, even if it's slow, even if it's painful, even if he doesn't fully understand everything, even if he has to work day and nights before he can just make a step forward, he would do it. Would I get frustrated? No. Would I be pissed because things are not going as fast as I want? No. Would I be toxic to others? No. When you embody your objective, it's a part of you every time. It cannot leave you. Therefore, every time something difficult happens, you turn it into a lesson. You turn it into an opportunity for you to be better, but also for you to get closer and closer to your actual goal. Become a champion, lift a trophy and stuff. Embodiment is a core concept that you need to implement right away, whoever you are in tier 1, as a tier 1 organization. Second letter, L, is for legacy. When you define your goals, you just have a vague direction. Like, oh, we need to go there. We need to work hard to lift a trophy someday. Okay, great. I don't give a shit about that. It doesn't inspire me. It doesn't push me to go further. It doesn't push me to change. It doesn't like transcend me. When you want to build a legacy, you suddenly all the problems you have, they become meaningless. People talk about Astralis a lot. Like these guys built a legacy. What happened is they lifted the trophy once and they had to find another goal for themselves. And it couldn't have been, yeah, we want to do it a second time. It was boring to them. Like, we did it once already. Like, it will not have the same effect. So what they said to themselves is, we want to build a legacy. We want to work in a way that is so efficient, but is so outrageous, but it will set a new standard for esports. And this is exactly what they did. So when they set themselves to build a legacy, it changed absolutely all the perception they have of the real world, of the reality. Suddenly, the opponent that is trolling your scrims, you don't care anymore. You're here to build a legacy. You're here for yourself. You're here to train for yourself, not for the monkey that is in front of you. So if they want to troll the scrims, so be it. But you're here to work. Here, you are here to build your mindset, your, let's say, mechanic, so that you can become a legend. When you aim so high that your goal transcends you, all your problems become meaningless. All the little things that tends to bother you, you don't care anymore. You're too focused on, I want to build this legacy. This was the second core concept. Third one, you need incentives. Basically, you need to ask yourself, what does my environment punish me for? And when am I rewarded by my environment? Most of the time, players are punished when they make mistakes, when they're toxic, when they're underperforming, etc. And they're also rewarded when they win, and that's it. And what is the problem with this? As a player, you need to improve at a crazy pace. Therefore, you need to deploy a great amount of effort to unlock improvements. And if you don't reward yourself along the way, this is what happens to your brain. You need to understand that your brain is not optimized for fulfillment, it is optimized for survival. Therefore, the only question your brain asks is, how many calories do you need? How many benefits are we getting? And if after improving, if after spending so many calories, spending so much effort, you're just saying like, okay, let's go to the next improvement that I need to implement, then there's no reward, there's no benefits. And your brain's like, okay, we did all this, you took all these calories, and there's no reward. And you'll be like, yeah, there's no reward because it's my job. I'm a player, I'm supposed to improve. Why do you want me to reward myself? Because I want you to respect the functioning of your brain. Because if you don't, this is what's happening. You make an improvement, you don't reward yourself. You made another one, you don't reward yourself. At some point, the brain's like, okay, we stop doing that because I'm spending a lot of calories and there's no benefits. So fuck that. At some point, you will just stop making efforts, but you will not understand why. You will try to push and your brain's like, nah, come back today, come back tomorrow. And you will spend more and more time in front of Netflix, TikTok, YouTube, but you will never do what you're supposed to do. And this is why you slow down. You have no incentives. Do I incentivize myself to be better? Of course. Every time I make a step forward, I didn't even succeed. I make a step forward, I incentivize myself. I'm telling myself I'm doing the right thing. This video that you're seeing is probably the 8th attempt. Every time I'm improving them. Every time I finished one, I incentivize myself. I'm happy that I did it. I'm happy that it went out, but it needs to be better. Should I just incentivize myself, reward myself only at the end? Fuck no. Every time I do it again, I get better. And this is probably the last version I'll do because I'm running out of time. But am I happy that I did it? Yeah. All 7 of them before this one. Incentivize yourself. When are you punished in your environment and when are you rewarded? Make sure that you're rewarded, not only when it works for you, but when you're fighting. When it gets tough and you decide to fight, reward yourself. When you're in solo queue, this one I like. I'll give you an example. The worst thing you can do for your career as an athlete. You play in solo queue on League of Legends, and you understand quite quickly that the game is lost. So what do? And I've seen this 1,000 times. Oh, I'm just gonna wait for the next one because this one is trash. It's not. I cannot carry it. It's lost. When you do this, what did you teach your brain? When it's difficult, I give up. When it's not worth it, I give up. When I cannot win, I give up. So then you go in scrims, and you know what happens? When it's difficult, you give up. When it's not worth it, you give up. When you cannot win, you give up. Then you go in officials. You know what happens? Yeah. Why? Because your brain doesn't make any difference between solo queue, scrims, and official matches. So you're actually fucking yourself. Why? Because you have no incentive. You're not incentivized to do what you're supposed to do, even if you lose. So why are you going to improve so much when you start to put incentives everywhere? Because doing the right thing will make your brain crave for more. When you only have processes, you just have a recipe that you need to follow in order to do it. But if you don't feel like doing it, if there's no reward to do it, you will not do it. But when you're incentivized to do it, your brain is like, I want more of this shit. Why did you stop? Keep going. And you will be so addicted to this feeling of I'm moving forward, I'm getting better. Even if it's a small step in front of you, you will go at a crazy pace. Next step, tactical adaptability. Most tier 1 organizations are familiar with the concept of resilience. The problem with esports and resilience is people in esports tend to confuse resilience with toughness. They believe that someone who is resilient is someone who can withstand a lot of damage and keep going. This is like the worst understanding of resilience possible. Why? Because when you hit someone and you hit them all day long, all month long, at some point they will break. And when they break, it takes them weeks for them to come back because of all the trauma they had to go through. Real resilience is just not caring. For instance, many people, they are still mad when they lose in esports, even in tier 1. Oh, I get upset. I'm frustrated. I want to smash something. And they're proud of it. Except that it doesn't make sense to be sad or frustrated when you lose in esports. Why? Because in esports, for every tournament, you have 1 winner, 15 losers. Meaning you will lose way more often than you will win. Winning will be so rare in your career that it will be an anomaly. So if you get upset every time you lose, you don't move forward. You just sabotage yourself. Because losing will happen so often, the best thing you need to do is to learn from them, to enjoy the losses. And most of you would be like, well, but I'm still an athlete. I cannot enjoy losing. It's normal for me to suffer if I lose. That would be correct if you were just a random dude that didn't aim for the highest peak of performance possible. But if you want to be the top, you need to respect the functioning of your brain. Your brain wants pleasure or it wants to avoid pain. And if you training means losing most of the time, your brain would be like, we don't do that because we suffer every time we lose. Therefore, we stop training. And for some reason, oh, I'm burnt out. Oh, I lost my passion for the game. I don't know why. You don't know why? Man, you refuse to lose in a reality while you will lose almost all your career. Tactical adaptability is looking at your reality and asking yourself, how should I react to this? How can I be perfectly fit for this reality? You should enjoy losing, and you know exactly why. Everybody tells me that when you lose, it's great because you know exactly what you did wrong. You're punished for your mistakes. When you lose, you are allowed to question what you do. You ask better questions. You improve so much. When you win, sometimes you win because the guy in front of you was so bad, he couldn't punish you. So you don't have a proof that you played great when you win, but you have a proof that you were not enough when you lose. And this is a gift. Tactical adaptability is accepting that you need to stop relying on your feelings. It's not because you're upset that you should feel upset. You're upset because you believe in your world, in your mind, that losing is bad. But it's not. Losing is just losing. You're playing a game where there's 1 winner and 1 loser. Therefore, there will always be a loser in every game. And if you're the loser, it doesn't mean anything. Next letter, last letter. E is for emotional command. In tier 1 organizations, most people learn about emotional regulation. The problem I have with emotional regulation is that it just brings you back to zero, to a neutral stance. But I don't want you to be neutral. I want you to be combative. I want you to be ready to fight. And for you to be ready to fight, you don't need to be neutral. You need to be happy. You need to be playful. You need to be curious. So let's say you just lost qualifiers. You're not going to the playoffs. You're sad. You're like really sad. And then you use emotional regulation. You're not sad anymore, but you're just neutral. I come to you and I say, okay, man, you're ready? We need to review the game. We need to understand what went wrong so we can do better next time. What you will tell me is this. Yeah, man, I don't know today. Like, I went through so much shit. I think I'm going to call it a day. And I'll do it tomorrow or maybe next week. Spoiler, you will never do it. Emotional regulation is fucking useless if you want to reach high performance. What you want is emotional command. Emotional command is, I need the right emotion to do whatever it takes. I need to review my games. I need to be happy. How can I be happy that I lost to qualifiers? You will lose hundreds of them if you have a great career, if you have a long career. You will lose so many of them. You can mourn every one of them and learn nothing. Or you can do what everybody else will not do, which is learn from them. And then as you do this, you get better than everyone else. This is how you reach high performance. This is how you reach the peak that nobody else can. While everyone else is sobbing, whining, moaning, bitching, you're working on it. So what do I need to do? I need to feel empowered. I need to feel strong after a loss, even when it's important, especially if it's important. You want to build a legacy. You want to be a champion. I swear to you, the trophy that you're trying to lift is 10 times harder than reviewing a qualifier that you just lost. So don't come to me and tell me that you will lift this trophy someday when you can't even review a fucking game you lost. I don't give a shit if it hurts. It will hurt way more when you get closer and closer to that trophy. So you better be ready for this discomfort. You better be ready for this reality. And this is why tactical adaptability before is mandatory if you want to reach high performance. How do you change the emotion? Because this is what emotional command is. You change the emotion. I don't want to feel sad. I want to feel great. It's easy. You just focus on something else. Why are you sad after a loss? You focus on the present. You focus on the bad play you made, the mistake you made that cost you the game. What happens when you focus on the future? I'm happy that I made this mistake because I know that when I'm tensed, when I'm pressured, I will tend to think this way, and this will lead me to mistakes. Now I need to do it this way. Now I will avoid this mistake every time, so I'm getting better. A champion understands that a mistake, a failure, a loss is painful only for 20 minutes. Then it will give benefits for the rest of his life. So for a champion, a mistake is 0.1% pain and 99.9% benefits for the rest of his life. He doesn't care. It doesn't sting him. He's happy that he lost. He's happy that he wasn't good enough because now he can get better. What you need to understand when you implement this, you will see rapidly that all the mistakes, all the little shit that tends to bother you, they don't exist anymore because you gave it meaning. You fully understood that in order to reach the highest level in this world, you will need to pay the price. You will need to train hard. I'm always amazed by the amount of players that tell me, oh yeah, I couldn't focus during the training because it got hard. Dude, it's called training. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. You're supposed to be focused. So when you come to me and you tell me, oh, it wasn't enjoyable, it wasn't easy, my opponent was trolling, I don't give a shit. You want to be the best, and the best can work even in the worst condition possible. If you're in tier 1 today and you're aiming for the top, you need to implement this elite foundation. You need to understand that the world is unfair and your job is to make it even worse for the guy in front of you. Thank you for your attention.